I'm glad you're able to be with us for this weekend devotional. I've been spending a great deal of time in Hebrews and a great deal of study in this idea or this word faith or this thought of faith. Not necessarily the faith that brings us to Christ. I want us to look at our faith as children of God, who we are. What is it we are to be striving toward? And so often we find ourselves as children of God and we feel as though we have followed Christ, we have salvation, and then we often linger and do very little, if anything. And we talk about having faith in God, and yet we need to think about what that means. In James, the second chapter, verse 14, it says, "What good is it, my brother, if someone says he has faith, but he does not have works? Can that faith save him?" This idea that we have come to Christ, we've given ourselves over to Him. What more is there? What goes beyond this idea is it can that faith that's there, can it save him? God said if we're His, we belong to Him. We're there to be with Him. We're there to seek to do His will and His work. Not because it's a commandment, because we love God, because we've given ourselves over to Him. But in verse 18 of chapter 2 of James, it says, "But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works." He's not saying that these works are to pay off a debt. He's saying that through his faith, because of his faith, he continues to seek to do God's will and God's work. He said, you believe that God is one and you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by his works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You see, the faith that Abraham had. He believed that if he did what God asked him, that God would bring Abraham or bring Isaac back to life. You see, that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. It says in the scripture, was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed in God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God. I want us to think about this idea that if we have given ourselves over through the blood of Christ, we've accepted that salvation, or we have been given that salvation or that forgiveness of sin, but are longing to have that which is laid before us in a promise, that eternity with God. That God has brought us about to be His people, His possessions, to seek to do His will and His work, to live our life for Him. If we're not producing fruit, if we're not working towards that point out of love, because we have been given such great things and we have such great expectations to look forward to, if we have faith that those promises will be kept, then we will begin to show others or show our faith through those works that we do in God, seeking to please Him, seeking to give Him all the glory, seeking to live our life for Him as His true possessions, believing that God will give us the things that He has promised and that we live in Him. It's so often it is easy for us to say, I believe in God, and sit back and do nothing. It's so easy for us to look and say, well, I have followed Christ. I have done the things I've said I would do. I followed Him in that baptism. And yet we sit back and we rest easy. He said we're here for His possession, for His will and His works. And that if we have been given these things then we seek to please God because we love Him. I want us to think about that. I want us to look at those ideas and those thoughts. If there's something here that you wish to discuss, I ask that you would come and send me a private message, that we might be able to sit down and discuss these ideas of faith, what it means, how we present ourselves to God, and how we please Him. I want to thank you so much for being here with us. And as we go through this week, let's look to seek to do God's will and God's work. And we can do those things without fear because He's there to help us accomplish the things that He wants done. Well, thank you for being here with us this afternoon or this day, and may God bless you.